Hey, how's it going guys? Zucco here, and welcome to part 2 of the Wonfes 2023 winter coverage. Now, if you missed part 1, I'll link the video in the description down below for you to check out if you'd like to. Not necessary, but just in case you want to see everything. However, today we're going to be talking about the remaining companies that I've yet to get around to. The only thing of note is that I'm recording this intro after everything else, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm jumping into first in this video, but I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to get to the rest of it anyway. But yeah, I think we should just keep this intro short and sweet and just start talking about some figures, so let's get started. Shibuya Scramble, also known as Estream, had a ton of figures at this event. There is a lot to talk about, so let's get started. First up is the Makima scale, actually, which is already up for pre-order. It costs around 28,000 yen, and I do think that is a little overpriced. However, I also think this is the best Makima to date. Do I think you need to rush out and buy a Makima scale? Not really, considering the popularity of Chainsaw Man, but if you're really pining for a figure of this character, this is the one to get. It's really close to being like the perfect face. Now this image isn't the best, but I'll grab some others and put it on the screen because I'm very familiar with this figure at this point. I've seen it plenty of times. I don't need to pull them up for myself. I just know that I really like the face on this figure. I think the pose is sick. I think it's very in character. I like that she comes with her trench coat. The blood is really well done. It's all over her pants. It's all over her shirt. And there's even a bunch of blood splattered on the base. I think the base does leave a little bit to be desired. It's not that it's bad. I think it's totally fine, but when they're asking for so much money, you would probably expect a little bit more. I just feel like it should be, I don't know. I'd be very happy at like 23,000 yen, but you know, it's Estream. They're always going to overcharge you. Plus, I think Chainsaw Man just kind of demands more. I think their license might be pretty expensive from what we've seen. But yeah, great figure. Honestly, the best Makima so far. So Estream also jumped on the Bridget bandwagon. However, I'm not really impressed with this one. I find it to be kind of dull. If her face looked a little bit better, and this could change over time, I would maybe like this one more. But it looks a little generic to me. It doesn't really remind me of the Guilty Gear Strive art style. The pose is fine, but I find it less interesting than the other two figures that I like of Bridget so far. She's not playing with the yo-yo really, it's just in her hand. There's no Roger. The base is just a bigger yo-yo, which is like fine. If it's painted in a nice shiny metallic red, it could look good, but it's just not as interesting to me considering it's already in her hand. And because there's so many Bridgets coming out, I think a lot of these are going to do poorly because nobody's going to buy all of them. I think they really shot themselves in the foot by not double checking with other companies on like what they're making. But I could be wrong on that. I know Bridget is extremely popular. I just don't see every single one of these scales selling well because there will be a best one. You know what I'm saying? And most people really only need one or maybe two. But let's move on. Let's zoom out a little bit so I can see some of these figures better. We have a couple of quintuplet figures. They're floral dress versions. We have Miku here in a blue dress. We have Yotsuba in a green dress, of course. And then there's some prototypes for Nino and I think of Ichika. So you got a lot of options here. The dresses look really soft, which is nice. I do like the white shading applied to the dresses. Seems like they both kind of have that. I do like the 4-leaf clovers in Yotsuba's figure. Nothing that I feel like is a must-get for a quintuplet fan, considering there's so many figures that these girls get. However, they are nice so far. Really depends on their price. I bet they'll be overpriced for sure, but, you know, it's up to you. It's your money after all. Kokoro from Princess Connect Redye was finally painted. I really like these effect pieces. The colors they chose to mix together, the light blues and the greens, just like this really soft, lovely palette, just looks great. I like the gold on her sash and the bronze on her boots. The flowers decorating her hair are really pretty. The only thing I'm not the biggest fan of, I guess, are the wings. They look a little cheap. Like they kind of blend in too much. Like you almost forget that she even has wings because all of these other effect pieces are obscuring the wings or just look better than the wings. So I think that's unfortunate. Maybe it's just the background not really helping it pop like it should. But I do like everything else, but that's a pretty big part of the figure that I feel like they should maybe touch up before putting this one up for pre-order. Carol did not get an update, which is unfortunate. I like seeing her scale. She is very cute. This is a great idea for a Monica scale, just to put her in the soul gem or the egg or whatever you call it. I'm forgetting the terminology. It's been a while. but I just think this is kind of like a no-brainer, and it's an excellent concept. She looks good too. I like the effects that are being formed on the bow, but I'm a little traumatized by the Gothica figure, so I don't know if that's actually a good idea unless it's slotting into the base itself. But yeah, man, I think they hit some gold here with this design. There's also a Homura, though we don't get to see it yet. They had some girls' frontline figures as well. This is Swift Whirlwind, full damaged version. I like this biker outfit, actually. You know what? This hat is the exact same hat, or a very similar hat, to the Soda Tail figure I liked. In fact, she also has, like, fishnets, which I do dig. I love how they're ripped, and this legging is burnt. That looks excellent. I really like how they did that. But is this not the same character? It might be, because I like her, and she has pink hair too. I don't know if I like it as much as the Soda Tail figure, just because that one really emphasizes her body. But I love these ripped stockings, the burnt leggings, the boots look sick. The shoelaces are red here and like grayish silver here. That's interesting. Thighs look nice. Honestly, pretty good figure. I like this one a lot. Not too much in the damage department outside of the legs though, but that's fine. Really don't care about that gimmick, but it does make it a little bit more interesting, honestly, than if it wasn't damaged at all. So it's a good. I think it's a good. Wow, look at this crazy sculpt. The M950A, the Warbler, and the Rose full damage version. What the hell's a Warbler? Is that a word? I don't know exactly what this is. It looks like a wedding dress figure. Just, you know, gone horribly wrong because it's full damaged and whatnot. There's little, like, ribbons here. There's garter belt. She's wearing heels. Pretty sure this is her veil, right? Like, this has to be a wedding dress figure. My only question is, what's her hair color? I want to look her up really quickly just to maybe find that out. It looks green in this image. I guess we're watching a YouTube video now. I don't want to take away that guy's views. Yeah, actually really pretty. Yellow eyes. And these flowers are also like a light yellow. I don't know why my mouse is freaking out. But very pretty character design. I like this a lot. And this figure looks nuts. So I actually want to see it. I want to see how this one turns out. This is a really nice looking sculpt, actually. ZB26, the 1000th Paper Crane full damaged version. Now, I'm not really seeing a lot of damage on this one, though she is certainly lifting up her dress, maybe because it's damaged. I like how it's swirling over here because it's all bunched up. I can't say I'm as interested in this one so far, though I do really like her ponytail, how it's just a bunch of orbs kind of sticking together. I just really like that sculpt for some reason. I'm sure this will be really pretty, but I don't necessarily feel the need to dissect this one. Alright, what do we got next? Next up is a Maki figure from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, this looks awesome. I love the curve of the glaive or the spear. Love this smear effect. I love how the, like, furry bit is kind of just, like, blowing off a little bit. The effects from the smoke clouds look rad. There's a little bit of grass in it, too, which is kind of interesting. I could do without that, honestly. Like, they're kind of just sticking up in two places, maybe one over here. But the actual, like, grass and dirt looks really good, too, strangely. This looks really cool. I think they did a really good job capturing her, like, fierce, fiery energy, you know what I'm saying? Alright, after that is a Geto figure, which is very different. I like how the energy of this one is completely changed from the Maki figure, because he could totally be going crazy if they wanted him to, but instead, it's a bit different. So far, the face looks great. I like how all the, I guess, cursed energy is being concentrated in the orb. I like when figures really have a focal point, so I think this is another good one. Next is Panda in his gorilla mode going fucking bananas. Look how scary this dude is. I'm loving how nice his arms look, actually. The fur looks so well sculpted. This is really impressive looking to me. The effects from, like, the punch he's about to do looks really cool. The trailing effect right here and the smoke clouds back here look really nice. I gotta hand it to them, man. They're making some really nice JJK figures so far. Unfortunately, there's no update for Yuji as well as Megumi, but I'm sure we'll see them soon. I think they have not committed to Nobara yet, which is a bit of a shame. Mash got her prototype, and this looks awesome too. She's actually defending something in this figure. There's a bunch of energy just like crashing into the shield. It looks awesome. But I really like how they've captured a threat in this figure. Like, she's really being pushed back. Something is really powerful on the other side, and you can just feel it in her body language, in the dirt, just kind of being like, you know, pushed back from her feet and whatnot, and obviously all those energy beams and whatnot being kind of parted off from the shield and whatnot. So yeah, this looks awesome for sure. Another great one. Solomon is getting a figure. No update on that, unfortunately. This might be old news. Pretty sure this is new, though. Nido Chris is getting a figure from Shibuya Scramble, or Estream. Is it Nido Chris, or is it Nido Chris? It says Nido right here, so I'm going to say Nido Chris. Yeah, she needs more figures. Her design is excellent. There's another Albedo figure being made by Estream, the Shikoku no Dress version. Looks fine. I got nothing to say about this. There's way too many Albedos, so I'll wait for the sculpts. Early prototype for the Marin cosplay figure was shown off. She is literally like chained to the bed, and her butt is perched up. I'm sure this will look great as a figure. Really not for me, though. Honestly, I don't really see myself buying a Marin cosplay figure. Maybe of the succubus girl, but I'm not really into the gothic Lolita design. But it's cool. I mean, you're getting an entire bed with this figure, so there's no way this won't be expensive. On top of the fact that her like outfit is way more involved than like a normal Marin figure. Let's see, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so I don't have to keep clicking on these. There's some Classroom of the Elite figures for these characters I'm not familiar with. There is some Data Life figures for Karumi and Toka. There's some Megamin figures for the new spin-off anime that I don't believe is out yet. One of just Megamin, and then one of Megamin and Yunyun. So they're really committing to the series, but who doesn't like Megamin? I could use a Megamin figure. I don't have one yet. There is a couple of Kantai Collection figures being made. I think this is actually an old announcement, so there you go. There are some Gridman figures. Hold on, I have to zoom out to see it a little bit, of Akane and Rika. Then there is a Hoshino Ai figure from Hoshino Ko. Shina Mahiru from The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten is getting a figure. She just has a really nice character design. Very cute. I want to see what they're cooking. There is the wedding dress figure for Kaguya. That is not new. I'm not sure if this is new either. I feel like I've seen this announcement before. And then there's also a figure of V from Girls Frontline. And then a Miku Project Sakai Champion 2022 Autumn figure in the works. And I think that's it for Estream. Alice Glint had a couple of figures at this event, and unfortunately none of them are really for me, but they might be for you, such as the Ryu Lion figure from Danmachi 4. Now, I'm pretty sure this character has no other figures, so that's enough reason for this to be exciting for some people. I think it looks good, and she's finally getting a PVC scale, so that's great. They're also making a figure of Arihara Nanami from Riddle Joker, and at first I wasn't going to say anything about this figure, but looking at it a little bit more, I gotta say I like what they're doing with her bra, which is the obvious like pull of this figure. I just think that there is a real nice amount of detail in like the frilliness and the attempt to make it look a bit realistic with like the very subtle creases in the material, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure some people are just gonna say, you're looking at boobs, but whatever. I think it's nice. I think if you look at it for a little bit longer, you'll understand what I'm talking about, but also boobs are great. And their last figure at this event was a Shiki Natsume scale from Cafe Stella. I don't really have that much to point out about this one, so I'm really just acknowledging it. Now, Broccoli finally put up this figure of Neptune up for pre-order, and while I don't remember the price tag off the top of my head, I do recall feeling like it was a bit too expensive for what it is. Now, I still like this one quite a bit. It's very comforting. It invokes feelings of like warmth. It's very cute. I just love this whole summer aesthetic figure that they've crafted for Neptune. And I wish it was cheaper, whatever that price may be. But I can't deny that this is adorable. From her outfit to her face, I just pretty much like everything about her scale and the sunflower behind her. And I think the really simple base works really well in favor of the entire sculpt. So this is a really nice piece, but I think people are going to be turned off by like the, I don't know, it was like 24,000 yen or something like that, maybe like 22. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a little bit more than I was expecting for just like, you know, Neptune and a big flower. So it is what it is, but at the end of the day, I would still recommend it if you want to spend some money, because I really do like it. Now, this is like one of 8 figures of Bridget at this event, though it's one of my favorite. This one and the Spiritale are one of the 2 that I'll be buying. I don't need all 8, I only really want one. And it's just kind of a matter of which one is my preferred figure of her. This is made by Broccoli, and I already have their May on pre-order, and I like what I've seen so far of that figure. Everybody seems to like it. I'm sure I will too. And this will likely be in the correct scale, which is important. But at the same time, they're not just copying the key art. that the Spiritale figure is. Not that that's a bad thing, because that figure, which you'll see soon, is turning out to be one hell of a figure, but I like that they went for something a little bit more original here. They still got Roger the bear. She's playing with her yo-yo. The string is extended right. It's very playful. It's very cute. The art style is really on point with this figure as well. I pretty much like everything about this sculpt so far. It's just a matter of like how much it costs and I guess how long it takes to get to me. Like, I don't really know. I have no complaints about this one. And I'm absolutely going to be buying a Bridget, so I just need to determine which one's my favorite. But this is one of the two that I think, at the moment, you should keep your eyes out on. This is weird. Data Live and DigiKarat are crossing over for this Tokusaki Kurumi figure. She's got the giant-ass cat feet. She's got the boxing glove paws. She's wearing a really poofy, cutesy outfit. I love how strange this is. Yeah, do more like this, even though I don't expect this to be a hot seller. But if you could find the right niche market for it, I think they're wins. I think they're really fun. Akizuki Kana from Cafe Stella is getting a figure. We have the Monster Girl Cheshire Cat, or is it Cheshire Cat? I've heard both. This says Cheshire right here, so I'll just say Cheshire. I like her face. It's very smug and arrogant. And these socks are kind of fun. I like how the diamonds are extending a little bit towards where she would pull them up. And nice butt. Also nice heart base. Alright, moving on. We have a plum figure of Chocola and Vanilla. I like Chocola's toned tummy. I don't like her hair being so translucent at the tips, even though I like the swirl, like the sculpt itself looks very good, even on Vanilla as well. You can't really tell as much that there's clear plastic used here, but very obvious on Chocola. I do like that she's biting on the apron as well. That's very adorable. And the patterns on their underwear are pretty nice as well. So, I mean, there's so many of these too, but it's just another option for you. There is a Nico figure, which is kind of nice to see. However, this is really basic. Now, basic's not bad, but in 2023, Nico has had a bunch of figures at this point, and I don't know who is getting pulled in by this very standard release of her. You're not getting this gigantic stage, by the way. This like 3D printed pink stage, like that's just part of the decoration to make this figure look better. So I don't know who this is marketed to. I just think it's a little too standard in the year that we're in, and whatever year this actually comes out. They're also making a figure for Nakasu Kasumi, who is a girl that I'm not familiar with because it's past the time I used to watch this series. But she's cute, so that's neat. KT Model, or Koei Tecmo, is making a Ramazel figure from Atelier Sophie 2. Now, she looks pretty nice. I can't tell if she's wearing pants. In fact, let's just do a Google search real quick to find out what she would look like. Get an image of her. I think you guys can see that. Let's just open it up here. Yeah, she's not wearing pants. She's just wearing the socks or the leggings, and then the shirt kind of cuts off right here. Little bit of thigh fan service. I like it. Honestly, I like the colors of her a lot. I think her hair will look really nice if they shade it correctly. The lining of the cape that she's wearing looks very comfy. I love this color of blue too. Honestly, I bet this figure will look really nice when it's done. However, the last Koei Tecmo figure was very expensive if I recall, so there's no way I'm going near this. However, I do like this character design. She's pretty dang cute. Hobby Sakura, I believe, is the last company on this page, and I'm pretty sure all of these designs are OC characters. This moderately busty cheerleader is already up for pre-order. Only costs like 14,000 yen or something like that. Very reasonable, nice and cute, simple. I like it. There's some more OCs if we go down, though I'm not very familiar with any of them. This one's got some nice hips. The Neva Ostro figure, I like that at the very least. But then they announced a bunch of figures that don't have any prototypes just yet, which you could see in these images right here. If I had to pick any of them, I would say I do like this bunny girl. Just the pink suit is very eye-catching, and her face has like little hearts in the eyes, so hard to not like that. Gun looks gigantic, but I do like the color scheme of her. But I gotta give a shout out to Lily by D-Smile. I just really like this one. It is very wholesome. The bread and the apple in the basket with her bike. Like, why is a little witch girl riding a bike? Her hair is tied up in these like really cute braids too. I don't know, I really like this one and her colors, but the other figures are nice as well. They're all very different, so to each their own. You might like one of these more than the other, of course, but that's gonna wrap it up for this section. Okay, let's do Katakawa next. First up is this really nice looking Shauna figure, at least conceptually. Now, from the neck up, I think this figure looks perfect. I love her face, I love the hair, I love the way it's done, and I like the pins that are keeping it all tied up. Excellent across the board. However, I'm not really convinced when you go down the figure. The kimono doesn't really look that nice in terms of the paint. The lining inside of the kimono is like one solid pink color. It doesn't really look that good. The flames look terrible and the base is so generic. Like, I feel like they really gave up on certain aspects of this figure. This is such a nice rendition of Shauna. Like, I love this as an art piece, but I can't say I'm really impressed by the execution of this figure so far, and I bet they're gonna ask like 32,000 yen for this, knowing the company. In fact, as I was looking at this figure, and I'm sure this is just because like the fabric inside of the kimono is thick, but it legit looks like the hand is just floating here, like it was plugged in. That just looks bad. I don't know. I get it. I'm sure it makes sense, but like right now it just looks kind of strange and off-putting. So I'm not completely sold on this Nero figure, but this sash looks like legitimate velvet or silk. This looks so good. I feel like the dress lets it down a little bit because this fabric looks insane. Like, it looks legitimately real to me, but the dress looks fine. It doesn't look bad, but it does kind of just look fine. I do think this gigantic piece of translucent plastic is a bit of a bummer though. I kind of just wish it was completely gone and you could just see her legs. It would be a little bit more attractive and sexy, but maybe that's not the vibe that they're going for, right? So whatever, I understand it, but I just feel like it's a bit overboard for how much they're using here, and it's not the best looking translucent plastic. But this sash, man, this shit goes hard. This looks really good. Tachibana Kanade wedding version from Angel Beats. Now, I do remember this announcement, and I feel like it's coming together pretty well. There's nothing too unique about this piece. She does have her wings, but even that is starting to not be completely unique to wedding figures anymore. I feel like I've seen that a couple times throughout some of these events, so, you know, unfortunately for her, not helping her stand out as much as it probably would have in the past. Still looks very pleasant though. Still looks cute, still looks fitting. The bouquet looks really nice as well, but it's a wedding figure. That's all I really got. Here we have Hoshino Ai from Oishi no Ko. Now this is a pretty well-known manga. The anime is coming fairly soon, which is what I'm waiting for to check this series out. So I don't really know a lot about this series besides the manga art. Like, the cover art looks excellent. I feel like every time I see the art of this series, I really like it. And this figure does remind me of that. Her face looks really cute. So I do want to see this one when it gets painted. Might look great, might want it. I feel like a lot of companies are going to be making this character though. But, you know, other than that, fairly similar to like most idol girl figures, so not that much else to talk about. It does look like she's standing on the yellow Chaos Emerald though. That's what I'm thinking of when I look at that base. It's just kind of like cut so that you only get the top portion of it. And I might have ruined the figure a little bit for some people, but hey, don't be easily influenced. Maple Break Core version. This one's definitely interesting. She just has this like massive chunk of energy right in front of her. She's not even holding it. It's just like right at her chest. I don't know if it's coming out of her or she's like pulling it together, but something's going on. Looks kind of cool. A bunch of announcements coming up. First up is the Gothic Lolita Megumin. A good idea. I like this design. There's also a Yunyun Gothic Lolita. Very cute. Both of them hopefully will turn out good. Yuna from Kuma Bear is getting a figure, which is cool because she is cute. Next up is the Sonico Megumin figure, which is not new, and they haven't made this yet. They should do it faster because this is still a good idea. I want to see it. Hoshino Ruby is getting a scale figure from Oishi no Ko. There is a 10th anniversary Albedo from Overlord. Not that she really needs a 10th anniversary figure because she gets a figure every other month, but whatever. There is a very wholesome Ilya figure. The summer dress version looks very cute. I like it. There is a scale figure of Ronin from Falselander. I would have assumed this character would have a scale by now, but I think she only has a Figma. But it's a sick looking Figma, so this will probably be a pretty sick scale. Aniplex had a ton of things to show off, as they always do, the first two figures being already available to pre-order actually. The first one is the Nero in the like commander outfit. I really love this uniform on her. I think it looks sick. I love all the red of this figure. The boots look awesome. The leggings look great. The gold on the outfit of like the jacket. And then of course you get all this gold behind her. The flowers popping in behind her in various places. I think it's a really pretty figure. Costs around like 26,000 yen, which is kind of a lot, and it's also exclusive like all their other figures, so I'm not going to pre-order it, but I do got my eye on it. There's also the Konyanskaya of the Light figure. This one's kind of like in a biker chick uniform, I believe. Zippers on the thighs, very interesting. Just gotta show off those legs any way you can, but I do like it. Her tail looks so much better than the freeing figure now that I'm looking at this figure and remembering back to the other one. I really love this color of pink. In fact, her hair has some really nice shading to it. Sort of subtle if you just like look at this figure from a glance, but it's very light pink here, and then it gets very dark towards the tips. Not super dark, but it's a bit richer, I suppose. I just really like that, and I think this figure is overall a nice one, though I don't remember the price tag of her because I wasn't planning to get it, so I didn't do as much research. Lycoris Recoil got a bunch of figures at this event actually, which we're only really seeing now. The first one being the Takina in the cafe uniform with the really cute pigtails. There's also some non-scale swimsuit figures, nothing too interesting, they're just kind of like sitting down on chairs, but fine nonetheless. There are some more non-scales from Mashal, a series that doesn't have its anime yet, so I don't know anything about it, but there's Lance Crown sitting on this chair. There is Mash Burn Dead lifting some weights, kind of neat. We had some Konofig updates for Fate Grand Order, Berserker Morgan, Altria Caster, as well as Senji Muramasa. 2B had our Buzz mod shown off, a 1/12 scale posable figure. These are a little interesting because they seem to mix like plastic and fabric, which I'm getting used to more and more, but I don't really love how it looks right here. It will help with the posability for sure, but I'm not really loving how much is dedicated to like only the skirt, and then the top is just plastic. I feel like the entire thing might as well be fabric if you're gonna do that. They're also making a Yoko, which is doing the same thing, but I feel like this is really pointless to make the socks fabric. Like, you could just paint these on, and then you wouldn't have any restriction in posability anyway. I also think the color is a bit too pink. Like, I know the socks are supposed to be pink, but I just feel like these are a little bit too vibrant for what they're going for. So I don't really like that much. And then there's a Buzz mod of Mash, and it just looks a little goofy right now, but the sculpt of the plastic looks fine. And since it's not painted, we might as well wait and see before we cast any judgment. Kitagawa Marin Night Pool version. So this is their third Marin figure so far, and their second swimsuit figure for her. Now granted, this looks completely different from the other swimsuit figure. Her hair is tied up differently, the bikini is different, she's holding onto a drink, and she has this inflatable ring, right? But it really does feel like they're just trying to cash in on this character, which is fine. She is very popular. I just don't think at this point in the game that this is like a super exciting announcement. It's nice to see her getting more scales, but I would prefer it if those other Marin scales from Aniplex would come out first so that we can judge the quality to see if it's worth picking up their other figures in the future. They're making this silly little Bochi. This costs like 50 bucks apparently, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's like barely bigger than a teacup, and it's not that detailed. It's not gonna have any posability. They're definitely taking advantage of fans of this series, and I feel bad for myself and others, but I do like that it's goofy though. So I guess it's okay, but I ain't buying it because it's way too expensive. There's no need to worry about that though, because we are getting a proper scale for Hattori in the future. Not exactly sure if this is what the figure is going to look like, since this is just an image from the anime, but exciting nonetheless. Would love to get my hands on a figure of her because, like a lot of other people, I really like Bochi the Rock. There was also an announcement for a non-scale of Hattori in her maid costume, which is cute, but since it's non-scale, I'm probably not going to get it. Though if the figure came with the chibis of her friends, I would be absolutely down, because these are really goofy and I love how stylized they are. Okay, moving on, next up is the Nier Automata 2B. They're making a 1/7 scale based off of the anime. Now, this is not a new announcement, but nice nonetheless. Kind of a shame they did not show anything with it, but it is what it is. I believe this is new though, even though we knew this would happen anyway. they like hid the fact that they were going to make an A2 scale, but they are confirming it now. They're making one, and I'm excited for it because I really don't like the flare version of A2, but that's just my opinion. So they're also making a 9S as well. Same art that we saw last time, so nothing really exciting there. I believe everything else is just announcements from Aniplex, so let's check them out. We have a Hayasaki Ai figure from Kaguya-sama. Interesting outfit to put her in, alright. We have a Kaide figure from Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl. That's the little sister, right? That's pretty cute. I don't know if she has any proper figures yet. There's a Lady Avalon figure from Fate Grand Order. This is very pretty art, but, I mean, the figure ain't gonna look like that, but I like the idea behind it. There is a Moon Cancer archetype Earth figure. This looks like a Cruid to me, but I'm ignorant. There is a Buzz mod of Mitsuri from Demon Slayer, a bunch of Demon Slayer stuff actually. Konofigs and Buzz mods for Mitsuri and Tokito, so that's cool. There is a Kenshin scale and a Buzz mod in the works, and then there is a Buzz mod for Ryo from City Hunter. Alright, moving on to Clay now, also known as Revolve. I've never heard that name before, maybe that's new. We have the Kanata figure from HoloLive, and this is a really pretty figure. I've been anticipating seeing this one painted, and it actually met my expectations, maybe even exceeded them a little bit, mainly because of the wings. I really like what they did with the wings. They're like tipped in light blue. You could kind of see it in like various locations on the wings. They look really pretty. It's a shame that this figure is being supported by 2 extra rods, considering that she has 1 foot on the base and 1 seemingly on the star. I would imagine so. I feel like 2 is a bit overkill, 1 would be fine, but I really like the colors on this figure, and she looks adorable. This pose is really cute. I think the hair looks excellent. I love how dark blue it is on the inside, and then the top is very light, just a nice contrast there. Stars look excellent. I just like the design of the stars. The gold is a really nice shade, and I don't know, man. I think this is a really cute figure. Oh, and I like what they did with the feathers. Like, there's not too many of them, but I like the placement of each, and a couple of them are kind of floating in the air a little bit. Like, you can see where they clearly plug them in, right, over here and over here, but because of the way they, like, place them, it kind of gives you the sensation that she just landed. I really like that. This is a really cute figure. I think they did a phenomenal job with it. I forgot about these, the Ilya and Chloe, like, sleepover party figures. They just call them the roomwear figures, but I like sleepover party because clearly there's a hell of a party going on with these scales. Now, we don't get to see their, like, pastel colors, unfortunately, but man, these sculpts are coming together really nicely. Like, they really got the art style down from the original illustration, and it's really funny seeing these two side by side because they're clearly just mirrored. Outside of like a few things, like Ilya comes with rabbits and Chloe comes with cats, but pretty much everything else is kind of the same, except for the fact that the colors will be different. I think one of them's blue and one of them's pink, but I'm kind of forgetting which one is which. But these are like insanely cute. I think last time I said this is somebody's like holy grail before even realizing it. It's just so overwhelmingly cute, it's ridiculous, and the fact that it's coming from Prisma Ilya of all things is kind of funny, knowing the other figures that this series is kind of known for. But yeah, I think Revolve's got a bit of a banger on their hands, so can't wait to see these two painted. They're also making a Ray figure. I think this one's alright. Kind of an unfortunate butt, if you ask me. I think it looks a bit Hank Hill-esque, but I do like the dimples. At the very least, she does have the long hair, so more potential to be prettier to me, but not really impressed. It's a little too basic at this point, but it is what it is. Chisato, Takina, and Kurumi are getting 1/7 scale figures from Revolve. That's kind of cool. Unicorn is getting a figure from Azure Lane, the Oath of a Pure White Dream version. The concept art is pretty, so I want to see it. 1/7 scale figure for Kama, the Heroic Spirit Dream Portrait version. This looks adorable. This looks very comfy. I love this little fella and his scarf too. Is there any more? We have an Iroha figure from HoloLive. That's an interesting pick. I like that. And then there's also a 1/7 scale Albedo figure in her lingerie. Albedo will never not get figures, I guess. She has so many at this point, but I don't blame companies. The design is pretty peak. But I believe that's it, so let's move on to the next company. Brilliant Journey. I believe they mostly make Azure Lane stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the Belfast Shopping with the Headmaid version. I love this outfit. The sweater looks amazing. I believe she's wearing tights because of the wrinkles by her knees and the ankles. The shoes are really cute. I like that she has a ton of bags around her. Her smile is really endearing too. Yeah, just a great one all around. I don't know how you couldn't like this. Even her hair looks amazing. Look at the definition by her thighs right here. That's really subtle, but that's some good stuff. All right, next up is the Taiho. I think that's Muse. If Love Live has taught me anything, that's how you would say that. I hope I'm right on that. I might be wrong. Yeah, this is one where she's like singing on a stage, I believe. This is the microphone in her hand. Her hair is insane on this figure. So many individual strands of hair. It's crazy. It looks great. Something about these legs look really big, not in a bad way, but there's like a big emphasis on her legs here. And I don't think she's really wearing any leggings, so you're gonna get some nice thigh and leg service on this figure. Yeah, I don't know. Looks pretty, but can't really get a good read on her face, so I'm not sure how much I like this completely, but it's shaping up so far. I do like it. Oh yeah, I forgot I put this on my wish list last week. This is the Bremerton Day Off Date version. I just like Bremerton. I don't play this game, but she is my decided best girl, and I really like this outfit on her. Like everybody else who's collecting these anime figures, streetwear is the way to our hearts. They always look good. Obviously, I don't know how much of this background is going to come with this figure. Like, I really don't need the counter, but I mean, she's got to lean on something, but I feel like this would be a bit excessive. So I guess they could like cut it off here if they want to include it. Hopefully it's not too much money, because I really like this outfit. She looks so good. But yeah, I think that's the end of Brilliant Journey. So let's jump to the next company. Wonderful Works is a company I am now familiar with thanks to Mona. Now, this figure of ZB26 looks basically the same as last time. I'm not sure if you're going to be getting these palm trees with the figure. This base of sand is like real sand if you look closely, so that can't be the base for sure. But I don't know what they're waiting for in terms of putting this figure up for pre-order, because it looks pretty much done to me. So I'm not going to really spend any more time on that one. There was also the Racing Miku 2021 Vacation Style version. Now, they didn't even bring the figure to the event, they brought images of the figure to the event, which is kind of funny. It doesn't really change anything for me, and truthfully, I don't have that much to add about this one, because it's the same outfit that we saw a couple weeks back at One Hobby, except now she's sitting on a stool, and I think the sunglasses are a bit more emphasized on this one. It's still very cute, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily think we need two figures in this outfit, but we have like 8 billion Mikus anyway, so an extra can't hurt. And it does look cute, and I do like this company, so it should turn out good. After that, though, I think there's just a couple of extra announcements. We have a scale figure for Jomai Sayori from Blue Archive. Definitely want to see this one. She looks very cool. And then following that is a figure of Eula, Dance of the Shimmering Wave version from Genshin Impact. So they're continuing to make more Genshin Impact figures, and considering how good Mona turned out, I think this one's got a good shot at turning out just as nicely, if not better, considering there's a lot going on in this like background. But I don't know how much they're actually going to commit to all that like ice appearing and whatnot, but we'll see soon. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for them, but next we have Design Coco. So there's an Azure Lane figure of Emile Burton, and this swimsuit is interesting. It's like very sexy, but also very cutesy and frilly and full of polka dots. I like the color scheme. I like the fact that she's wearing gloves. She's very cute. And these faces on like the torpedoes are pretty funny. I like them. This is going to be interesting when it's done. Following that is, what is this? Hatsune Miku Japan Tour 2023 Thunderbolts. This is a sick design. It kind of reminds me of Gitaru Man or Gitaru Man. I'm not actually sure how you say that game's name despite loving it, but that's kind of like the art style that I first thought of when I saw this Miku. It's definitely very cool. It's definitely very distinct. And as a result, I think this Miku is going to stand out in a great way, but I think I'm not gonna like the colors on this figure based on the illustration, so I'm not really that excited for it, but I love the originality, for sure. I really want to see how this one turns out, but I don't see myself as a buyer just because of like personal taste. Hatsune Miku Senbon Zakura version, a classic Miku song, and honestly, we haven't seen a figure in this outfit in quite a while if I recall, and the artwork's great, so I'm definitely going to keep my eye out on this one, because I really do like this outfit on Miku, and like I said before, it is kind of a classic. I think of this song all the time. Next up is Seoul International with an albedo scale in her bikini armor. I'm not really impressed, not to be a hater, but I don't like her face right now, and the bikini itself looks really drab and really dull. Now, the axe looks fine, and the armor looks pretty good. I like the shine of it. The wings look alright as well, definitely fine in terms of the color, in terms of the sculpt. Not the most impressive wings I've ever seen on an albedo scale, but, you know, definitely could be worse, but I'm not really feeling this one, mostly because of her face and the bikini itself. Like, any part of this figure that's white, I'm not really liking at the moment. After that are some Phantasy Star Online 2 figures of Jean and Holseed. I never knew Phantasy Star was so busty, but, you know, I see this character all the time. I'm not really liking how her hair looks right now, though. I hope it's very early and they're not done with this, because it looks a little rough right now. I would not want to buy this figure based on the hair alone. This design is sick, though. I really like how she looks so far, so I hope she looks better. This company is making a power scale, which I definitely didn't know about until right now. She's got a suitcase. She clearly has Meowie, right? And I think she's wearing the pink outfit with the 76 on it. I'm pretty sure. I don't see myself buying this one just because I think other companies are making better figures in that outfit already. But, I mean, if it turns out good, that's cool. And finally on this page is Zero G Axe Reina, the one where she's at like a summer festival. I definitely like the concept of this figure. I don't understand why there's a gigantic sausage in her back. Also, I can't tell if it's fake or a real sausage, just because it's got a gigantic seam line in it, which looks pretty bad, but at least it's on the weenie and not so much on like her herself. But yeah, it's just fun. I just like these outfits on anime girls, so I think it's very cute, and I think it's alright so far. Medicos Entertainment had a couple of things of note. I'm not sure if anybody cares about this figure. I've always liked the vibrancy of these scales from this series, and I love that there's a little frog on the sign down here. But yeah, I just really like the colors. I think her face is cute. They emphasize her butt a little bit. Can't say that's a problem. Yeah, I wouldn't buy this, but I do like it. I'm just not sure how these figures turn out, so I'm not gonna recommend them, but I do like the presentation so far. They're also making a Balalaika figure from Black Lagoon. Now, one of my deep dark secrets is I've never seen this series, and I need to, and I will, but I definitely dig it so far regardless. I like how she looks. I like the crazy expensive looking throne. The crossed legs is very sexy. The scars all over her body are cool, and she's smoking a cigar, I suppose. She looks pretty badass. There's really nothing wrong with this. It looks pretty damn good so far. I just can't show my appreciation for it as much because I'm stupid and I've yet to watch this show yet, but maybe because I mentioned it on this channel, I'll do it sooner than later. Maybe the most interesting thing coming out of Medicos, though, was a figure announcement of Guts from Berserk. Now, this is likely going to be a 1/7 scale, maybe a 1/6, right? But they're basing it off the anime specifically, like it says it right there, and I don't know if that's a huge red flag or not. I'm definitely not going to get my hopes up. I'm definitely not going to get excited about this, but it's nice that a company is going to attempt to make something in like the $200 to $300 range, which is what I'm guessing the price of a Guts figure at that size would be. Hopefully not too much more, and hopefully it turns out cool, but I don't know why you would specifically pick the anime to announce your figure based on, because I think a lot of people don't like this anime, but at the very least, I'm going to be paying attention to this because how could I not? This is something that does not happen very often, so I gotta give them credit, and I will be looking forward to seeing their prototype. Belfine actually had a lot of stuff at this event. Now, they're a bit hit or miss as a company. I particularly am not the biggest fan of them, though they did have a couple of figures that I do want to highlight. I'm kind of surprised they're making a Shigure scale from Kantai Collection as well. The base is very strange. I'm not exactly sure what these like crinkly, wrinkly ass parts of the water are supposed to be. My assumption is like the sun reflecting down, but it looks very odd at the moment. I'm not the biggest fan of the execution here in terms of the paint job. They're making a Nagatoro figure which feels like a figure that already exists. This might be old. I'm not sure. It already has a price tag, so you know it's going to be 16,000 yen, so at least it's cheap, but I don't know. It's just her in a swimsuit, so I'm not really that impressed. There is a Honjo scale from Datalive, and I actually kind of like this one a bit. I think they're actually using translucent plastic to the best of their ability. The way they're emphasizing that it's like part liquid, I think it's pretty neat. On the other hand, I'm not the biggest fan of this Hoshimiya figure from Datalive as well. And I might have to censor this. I guess I'm just gonna because I can't tell if those are nipples that are showing. But I think this hair sculpt looks pretty dreadful, unfortunately. I do like the base. I think the moon or the crater of like an asteroid looks pretty cool here. But outside of that, I'm not really impressed with the sculpt of her. I think it looks a little cheap. And yeah, I'm just gonna move on from that one. Next up is a fairy tale figure of Urza, and she looks very mad. Maybe a little too mad for my liking, but I can't help but also be distracted by this huge line running through the flag. I just think that looks really ugly, but she looks alright. I think the paint job on this figure for the most part looks fine, so I'm not gonna hate on it too much. We got a couple of My Hero Academia figures, which seems to be some of their better products that they've released so far. This Mirako figure I actually kind of like. The fact that they're emphasizing her legs in such a great way while still making them feel powerful just feels more in character than some other figures I've seen of her. But they're also making a Mirio figure. And unfortunately, I think this is very stupid. Now the sculpt of Mirio himself looks great, and I like the colors, I like the expression, a lot of that is on point. However, because they have to emphasize and show off his ability, they got him literally stuck in a wall. And I get it, like how else would you show off his ability? But it still looks like this dude is just stuck in a wall, and why would I really want to look at a giant slab of concrete when I bought the figure for the character himself? Now I hope you could just remove all of this. It kind of feels like you can the way it's cut out, and it's clearly very thin, but who could say for sure? And at the very least, they are kind of involving it with his foot down here, so I'm a little worried about this one. But it's a very personal problem. You may not find this a problem at all, and if you don't, then I think he looks pretty good. Tatsumaki getting a scale figure is fantastic news. For one, who doesn't like Tatsumaki? She's great. But two, it's been a really long time since we've gotten a proper scale of her. I think the last one was Freeing's 1/8 scale, which is weird they didn't make a 1/4 ever, but it's nice that we're finally getting a second chance at a nice scale. Not that that other scale was bad at all, I'm just saying I like some options. Now, I love this base, for sure, and I think her face looks nice and the pose is good, but this seam line is horrible. If the seam line is on the final product, I ain't buying this. If it's not there, I'll consider it. But this is just a terrible place to put your seam line, and I genuinely think a lot of people will feel the same way. This is just not where you put your seam lines. It's dead center and it's all around her body, so like, that's not good, but other than that, I like it a lot. She looks great so far. Love her hair sculpt. Looks really good. Okay, Ray's Dream is bringing the heat, at least for me. They brought their Flandre and Remelia Scarlet figures for the event. Now, unfortunately, Remelia is not painted. I definitely love these giant-ass combat boots, though, on her, and the hat. Very cute. Her tattered wings also look pretty good, but we might as well just focus on Flandre because she's painted. They painted the flame effects really interestingly, if I had to put it one way. I'm not sure if I love it or hate it, which is weird. There's clearly effort put into these flames, but I'm not sure if I like it. I do think the base looks great though. It's very weathered, there's like a little bit of blood on it. I didn't expect the thorns to be brown though, that's pretty interesting. Now as for Flandre herself, she looks pretty good. I can't really get a good tell on her face. There's a lot of red on this figure for sure. I think the wings don't look nearly as good as, say, the Alter version of Flandre. I think that's pretty clear at this point. I did pull up some extra images, which unfortunately don't give me the best look either. Yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of like back and forth on this one. Like, I kind of like her eyes, but they definitely don't look like the illustration. And the weird dirtiness of the hair is also interesting, but I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't like that if I bought a figure and that was their attempt to kind of add some details and whatnot to the hair sculpts. So I'm kind of mixed. I'm definitely mixed on this one. It's a very cool sculpt, don't get me wrong. It's fierce, it's fiery, It's nice to look at, but I think the finer details are lacking at the moment. But besides those two, we also had some scale prototypes for Arya as well as Asaki. It's like a little cat girl, and there's a tiny pig on her head. Maybe a plushie, maybe real pig, I don't know. But she's also a gamer, so there you go. I think outside of that, there was also some announcements for some original characters, Kamame-chan as well as Mogu-chan. I definitely like the art style of these two. I would probably pick this girl if I had to choose one for whatever reason. The quality of these photos isn't really that great though, so let's move on to Orca Toys. They only had 2 figures to show off, very early prototypes of Urza Scarlet and Mira Jane. I'm pretty sure Orca Toys deals with like more expensive types of plastic or material to make their figures, and they're usually on the larger side. These are probably going to be very expensive whenever they're done, but I do appreciate that they're making something from Fairy Tail that doesn't look like everything else, and they're pretty ambitious sculpts, and I think they're pretty neat, and maybe you should consider adding them to your wish list if you like Fairy Tail. FNEX and Spiritale are on this page, so this one's pretty important. First up, we have the FNEX Riala figure from Tales of Destiny, which kind of just wins me over instantly because Tales of Destiny is, if I'm correct, a PS1 game from 20 years ago. This is an anniversary figure, and I wish I've played that game. I do own it. A little expensive, actually. I'm glad I got it when I did, but I don't really know too much about this character, but I find this sculpt really interesting. For one, it reminds me of Cardcaptor Sakura. Just like the art style of this girl, just, I don't know, makes me think of Sakura for some reason, but that's just the way I feel. But the more interesting thing about this figure to me is the color palette. There's like a lot of dark choices on this piece that just really stand out to me in a good way. Like the ribbons on the staff, I suppose that's what this is, are like this really nice, rich, dark red. The branches on the bottom are like a grayish blue. They're blooming with flowers, but this thing looks decrepit, right? In the middle of the figure, you do get this really lovely splash of lavender, and then the flowers are a bright-ass pink. So there are some brighter tones to this figure, but overall, I think the color choices on this figure are really distinct and makes me just kind of like appreciate this one even more. Now, outside of that, from FNEX, we had the Gagaga girl from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Definitely, like, past my time. I don't know who this character is at all. I do like that she comes with the summoning circle, even though it has to be supported by 3 rods, apparently, which kind of sucks, but it does look nice on its own for sure. I like how her cell phone also has this gigantic chain with 2 skulls. I just think that's neat. Kizuna Ai is getting one of those really expensive kimono figures. And I don't really know how to comment on these because I definitely don't know anything about the fabric that's used on these figures. Like, it's kind of above what I normally talk about, so I'm not really going to comment on it. But I will say I think her face has looked better on other figures, especially the stronger one, which I'll put on screen. I like that figure a lot, even though I don't own it. So I'm not sure about that. We also have a Hatsune Miku 2023 Chinese New Year version. Now this has been up for pre-order for at least a month. I know I saw this at AmiAmi before, probably for like 30,000-ish yen or something like that, as all of these FNEX Mikus are. There's something about this one that looks a bit more mature. It's probably the outfit itself, the length of the dress, and probably her expression as well. Just feels like a slightly older, maybe more mature Miku, and it does look nice, but not really for that price tag, unfortunately. Rem and Ram, in a bit of a situation. Ram has her knee literally buried in Rem, which is certainly something. Yeah, that kind of speaks for itself. There is a maple from I Don't Want to Get Hurt, so I'll max out my defense of the original armor, I suppose. And this figure, I remember seeing on AmiAmi for like 36,000 yen, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the colors of this figure. I think it's painted really well. I don't understand the beach base as someone who has not seen the series. I think it kind of clashes with everything else a little bit, but I don't see the value for this at all. This series seems a bit niche, even though it's getting a lot of figures. Maybe the license is expensive, but as like nice as it looks for what it is, I think 36,000 yen is absolutely ridiculous for something like this. Elena the knit dress version. I think this is actually a really nice attempt at trying to get like the sweater texture down. Her outfit looks pretty damn good. Face looks cute as well, though I'm not exactly sure if her face looks different from other Elenas. This one just looks like a bit off to me, though I don't have another one right in my view to like compare right now, so maybe that's wrong. But I do recall the Good Smile one we saw at One Hobby definitely looking different than this, so I don't really know what's supposed to be like her canonical face, if that makes sense. But I do find this one pretty cute. I like how cheeky it is with the expression that she's doing. The leg fan service, the feet look cute, I guess. I don't know. It's nice. It's nice for what it is, but nothing I'm really that interested in picking up. We have 2 figures from Bungo Stray Dogs, Chuya and Osamu. This guy looks like he's about to fall down. I don't really like the pose they chose for him, but I suppose it's in character, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. And if this is Osamu, this one's a little bit more normal, though I don't know if I like this either. It just looks a little silly when you focus on his feet. I kind of love the color of blue, like in combination with the steps. There's just something about this base that really pops out at me. So I think they look fine, but for some reason, I'm just drawn to this color. So yeah, not really my wheelhouse, so I don't really know what else to say about them, but they're cool. We have some blue lock figures of Nagi and Bachira. Now, if I can go back, I think the flames look excellent. I just think the overall like color scheme of Nagi here is kind of perfect. The shading of like the soccer uniform looks really good, and the purple flames are excellent. I feel like this image right here is probably doing this figure a disservice. I don't think it really helps show off the flames. They look a bit worse, and I think because they contrast with the blue uniform, since they're yellow, they stand out a bit more. I do like the fact that they've really captured how fast this dude is going, because he looks like a psycho, and his hair is just like completely blown back. So that's really neat, though if I had to pick one, I think Nagi came out a little bit better, if only because I think the paint job just shines a bit more. Hatsune Miku is getting one of those really expensive kimono figures, so expect this to be like $1,500. It's probably going to be pretty, but again, I don't really collect these because they're way out of my price range. But it's a 1/4 scale with some very pretty fabric, and I like the inclusion of the little birdie. So this will probably be very nice when it's done, but I'm going to leave it at that. We've seen this Bocchi figure before. In fact, I think it's the only prototype a Bocchi figure has at this point. I like the inclusion of the foot pedal and the mixer and whatnot, and the guitar. Of course, she has to have her guitar to make it a complete figure and whatnot. But yeah, I bet this is going to cost like 28,000 yen, and then I'm just not going to buy it. If this is reasonable, I'm down. I actually don't have any FNEX figure at all. I would love it if this was the figure that broke that, but I just know for a fact it's going to be so expensive for what it is. Alright, it's time to finally talk about Spiritale. Now, first up is their Bridget scale. And I don't really know how to put this, but hear me out before you say anything in the comments. I feel like this image has to be a lie. And what I mean by that is that this looks so good, the shading on this figure looks unreal. Like, whatever they did to paint this figure looks so nice, to the point where I just feel like they're lying about how good this figure looks. Because if this is how good this figure looks, then this is going to be the best Bridget scale out of all of them, and maybe like the best figure Spiritale has made so far. I'm like really impressed at the paint job that is in this one promotional shot. Like the shading on her skin, the colors chosen for her hoodie. I think the metallic red for the yo-yo looks perfect. In fact, I'm gonna be really disappointed if other Bridget figures don't have this metallic red, and that might sway me to get this one if the others don't. You obviously get Roger with this one. You get a bunch of these like really nice smoke clouds, and there's some like stars and shards on it. Just a really nice figure. It's essentially 1-to-1 with the key art used for Guilty Gear Strive, and her face as a result looks absolutely perfect. And again, I think the paint looks so good that this hair can't possibly look this nice on the final product. Like, that's the one thing I usually nitpick about Spiritale figures, is that usually the shading on the hair is the one place where they kind of take it easy, but it just looks like a 12 out of 10. If this is how this figure's gonna look, then I don't think you even need to consider the other companies making Bridget, because this is like actually perfect. But surprisingly, that's not the only figure that I have nothing but nice things to say about, because next up is the Mikamu Nero figure from Blue Archive. Now, this wasn't really on my radar. I did like the prototype, but I didn't really plan to get it because I don't need to collect Blue Archive. But I'm really impressed with how they managed to sculpt this one. because not only did they manage to capture this like fierce little Mesugaki brat in like the perfect way possible, her face looks so fucking fierce and angry and sharp, and it's essentially perfect, but I really like the attempt at making the suit look as realistic as possible. I'm gonna try and find some better images of it, but you can see it in the one image that I'm showing off right here, that there's just like a ton of nice creases in the suit and in the ears, and I just think it looks super good. I'm not exactly sure what this is, and I choose to ignore it because I don't know what I'm looking at, but another thing that I really like about this figure is the jacket that she's wearing. The design of this jacket is super sick, and it complements the figure really well. In fact, there's a lot going on in this figure, like the poker chips and the cards and the glass and the guns and the stool. There's just like a lot of technical value here depending on how much this figure costs. That is neat, but truthfully, I don't even really care about all that because I think the sculpt of herself and the clothes that she's wearing just look so good on their own that all of this is just extra. So next up is the Hatsune Miku 39th Day commemoration version, the Royal Miku. This one definitely stands out for its like natural color palette. There's something about it that just feels a little bit more real, the way they painted this one, a little less like fantastical. I don't remember what this golden egg orb is supposed to be. Someone did tell me last time we saw this figure, but unfortunately my small brain has forgotten it at this point, so I'm just gonna say I love the gold application chosen for this little piece. And it seems to have some like little blue jewels placed throughout it, kind of similar to the crown as well, and the scepter. They all kind of follow very similar lines of like how they were painted. Honestly, as nice as this looks, I feel like Miku herself is the least interesting thing about this figure. Like, I want to see more of the throne. I want to see more of the robe that she's wearing, that she's got her feet on, by the way. I don't like that, but that's just a little nitpick that doesn't actually matter to the sculpts. Like, even her hair doesn't really stand out to me on this figure, which is normally the thing that stands out on Miku figures, unless she's wearing, like, a really crazy outfit. But this one is just Miku in her normal outfit, so there's just, like, elements of this that are, like, crazy good, and then there's some elements that are just like, alright, it's Miku, it's fine. So I don't really know if I'm, like, completely sold on this one. I definitely don't think it's low quality. I'm just not really seeing, like, the X factor, like, oh man, this is amazing, but I don't know. I feel like I'm being a bit more negative than I need to be, because objectively, there's really nothing wrong with it, and it's definitely different. So, it's got a lot going for it. Hatsune Miku Birthday 2022 Polaris version. Now, I don't really have a lot to say about this figure. I would rather, like, talk about it more when it's done. However, I do want to use it as an example to the last point I made about the last figure. Her hair looks so much better on this figure in terms of the sculpt, how like full it is. Like even this one twin tail looks better than like all of the hair on this Royal Miku. Now it's not even painted, and I'm saying that, and I guess things could go south, but I just think as far as like a Miku hair sculpt goes, this is way better looking. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting design nonetheless. I just don't really have that much to say about it right now. This one, on the other hand, I do want to talk about because it is super cute. This is the Hatsune Miku drawing version by Saito Naoki. Now, as a result of being an illustration figure, her art style is completely different, very fresh, and I kind of love it. It's basically like a cat girl Miku, which I could actually take or leave. It doesn't really affect that much for the figure. I do like the little cats that are flying and carrying something. I'm not exactly sure what they're holding, but I do like that they're part of the figure. She's also got this gigantic tablet pen, which is just kind of fun. And then I'm pretty sure her like halo is supposed to be like part ruler and then part tools that you would find on like Photoshop or whatever they're using to draw these illustrations. I'm not an artist, I don't know the program, but I do know Photoshop. So yeah, it's just like a fun idea. And dude, her twin tails are just filled with flowers. It is very pretty. Now, this is a great sculpt on its own, but I did go out of my way to find the original illustration, and I gotta say, if this is what the figure is going to look like, then my god, we got a really pretty piece on our hands. I love the colors of the flowers they chose, and the fact that the inside of the dress is just filled with those same flowers is a great idea. Not to mention the like RGB thing that's going on inside her pen. I don't know how they're gonna replicate that, but I am eager to see it because I just think that is a great detail to fit into the figure as well. You could also see that the cat over here is holding onto an eraser, and the other cat is holding onto a paint bucket. So basically, they're her helpers, which is a really cute idea. Like, come on. How could you not like this? This figure is actually one of the cutest things I've ever seen. Definitely my favorite Miku that they've worked on so far. Just because it's unique, it's different, it's super colorful, it's fresh feeling. I like the originality. So Spiritale already has 3 figures that I'm really impressed with. Now, this next one is just a 3D render, and it's the Shina Mahiru, the sailor dress version from the Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Now, I think this is a great concept, but whenever it comes to figures like this, it all hinges on the dress. If they don't do the sundress or the sailor dress in this version correctly, then it's all gonna come crumbling down, despite the fact that I think her face looks cute, her braids look amazing, and the base is gonna really complement her. But with so much focus on the dress, they really need to make sure they nail that perfectly. This is not an update of Sophie, so we're gonna just go by that. There is a new Ryza figure, a swimsuit version, from Ryza 3, where she's at her oldest and her thickest, so you're gonna have to pay attention to this one if you like Ryza figures. Actually, I think everything else from Spiritale are just announcements. So next up is Marin in her swimsuit, which is like one of 4 at this point, so not very exciting, unfortunately. They're also making Marin in her Liz cosplay, which is a little different. I definitely like this cosplay more than some of her others, so I'll keep my eyes out on that. Whoever at Spiritale pitched the idea for these 2 figures, biggest brain. Such a smart idea. They're making Chisato and Takina in these like punk rock outfits that I think were only shown off during commercial breaks for like a second or 2. These are such nice costumes, and I think a lot of people are going to want to buy these, and I can't wait to see them. And then last from Spiritale is an Elena figure, where she looks like she's up to no good. Is Elena like this? Does she act like this all the time? I still haven't met anybody who watches this show, despite how many figures she gets, but definitely different from what I'm used to seeing of her. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for Spiritale. So for some reason, I just couldn't find this next scale on Moe Pop. I'm sure it's there somewhere in one of the galleries, but I just couldn't locate it. But I said in the other video, I would continue to talk about some additional Dragon Maid figures, some that were pretty big. And the next figure I'm gonna bring up, I had to go to MFC to find, and it's the Lukoa figure. Now this one, if I could just bring up some images, here's the original arts. She had very big hands, they did change that, but you can kind of get a good idea of what this figure is going to look like. However, I think they went a little overboard perhaps. What's a good image to click? This one's pretty good. Yeah, these things are gigantic, which, you know what, whatever. It's Lukoa, right? Like, her boobs are big. They're supposed to be big. Is this bigger than expected? Yes. You can see that they clearly shrunk her hands down, like 10 times so. And I think that's the right call, even though they're changing the like original artistic vision and whatnot. I think a lot of people just would not have been on board for hands this big. You know what? I'll just say it. I think it looks good. I doubt this will be as pronounced on the final product because that's normally how it works. However, I did forget to talk about this figure in the Estream page because I don't think he popped up. The Aki figure by Estream. Now, controversial take, maybe. Not the biggest fan. I do think the Fox Devil looks absolutely perfect. I think everything about the Fox Devil is so on point. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. Paint job, sculpt, the base aspect of it exploding looks super cool. But I'm just not really like enjoying the way that Aki himself was sculpted. His face looks very strange to me. I don't know if it's the lips or the wink, but I just feel like they didn't get the Chainsaw Man art style down when it came to Aki. There's also an additional face that you can get if you pre-order it through the right store, which, I don't know. I feel like the Mythos figure looks better in regards to Aki himself. This is a totally subjective thing. I think this is like objectively a very nice piece, but for me it falls apart when I look at his face because I just don't really like it. Maybe it's like the fact that his cheeks look like they're kind of puffed out a bit. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to jump on to some other announcements. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about QSQ, because they weren't really at the event, but on the same day, they started to announce some figures. Okay, so first up is a Bridget scale, and I'm kind of disappointed by it, considering that I really like QSQ, one of my favorite companies. I just find this piece to be very basic, kind of like the Estream version, but I do like this one a little bit more. I feel like it looks a bit more like her than the Estream version, but, you know, at this point, compared to Spiritale or Broccoli, really not bringing that much to the table. It's a cute pose, right? Her face looks pretty good, though not the best in my opinion. I'm pretty sure this figure has like the exact same like setup as the garage kit that Grizzly Panda set up, and I think his garage kit looks amazing. If this was an official figure, I would want this. So yeah, I'm not really sure about the Q Bridget just yet, but we have so many options that I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't know if this was a random announcement, but we also got Reika from Gantz. I think she actually looks really pretty, and I love this hair sculpt, but I just find it odd that it kind of came out of nowhere for me. So keep your eyes out on that one for when it's painted. Outside of those two, though, they didn't really have too much. There is this AX girl, maybe. I'm sorry, I don't have information on this one, but it's a maid-like tanned cat girl with quite the bust, some monster energy, a weird futuristic axe, and a lot of purple. Lacy stockings too. I bet it's gonna look great knowing Q, but I just don't have the information for you guys. There is also a Kagura scale in some capacity, not exactly sure what they're aiming for with this figure, as it's a very basic announcement, as well as this Risu figure from Doll's Frontline. She looks cute. I love the colors. I'm just a big fan of red after all. But yeah, like I said, there's not really too much at Q at this event, unfortunately. There was a couple of right-to figures of these two girls who I don't remember their names. I know this one is Erika because I can read that, but they're both maid versions. You can kinda tell on this one, right? I like how her mop is almost like an axe based on the design down here. I think that's pretty neat. And then their last announcement was two figures, Chisato and Takina, in their training wear. Not exactly sure what that means. If I had to guess based on this company, probably not going to be wearing too much and be a little bit lewd. But that is all we got from Q this time. Alright, let's wrap up this video with Apex Toys. Now, their first figure is unfortunately the only one that they painted. However, it's the one that I would have been the most interested in, so that's good for me. Unfortunately, I feel like her face has kind of gotten worse over time, and I'm starting to like the face on the pop-up parade a little bit more. Now, don't get me wrong, everything else about this figure is going to be 10 times better on this version than the pop-up parade, but there's just something about like the size of her mouth and her eyes that I just feel like are missing the mark a little bit, but not to such a degree that this is not like salvageable or even something that you should avoid. I don't think it looks that bad, but to me it's just not the perfect K-Angel figure. Like I said though, I think there are a lot of things about this figure that they did very well, like the finish on the school uniform and the sculpting and coloring of the Helix twin tails. I think this looks fantastic, honestly. I don't know if it's just me, but the detail that always gets lost in her figures, I'm not even sure if the pop-up parade has this, is the gradient to purple in her hair. I don't know why, but every single time I've looked at this figure, I always forget that's an aspect of it, but it looks great. I think, you know, knowing Apex, this won't be an expensive figure, and most of it's very good. I hope it gets tweaked a little bit to my liking, but if you like it as is, I would definitely recommend it. I'm pretty sure everything after K-Angel though is either like Arc Knights or Azure Lane or Girls Frontline. For instance, we have the Type 95 Kite Flyer in Spring version. It's a cute figure. I don't really have that much to say about it, but it's definitely a cute figure. Next up is the Suomi Mission for Happiness SP version, which I believe is a wedding dress figure. I'm going to assume these are like petals or just like flowers in general, but it's a little hard to tell. I did manage to find the original artwork, and it definitely paints the picture a little bit better. I don't even think this is really a pattern. I think these are like cut out of the dress itself, showing her skin, which is really interesting. I like how the top portion here is trying to like simulate, I guess, petals floating about a little bit. And then her veil has a lot of like snowflakes on it, so that'll look probably very pretty. Honestly, I really like the art style for her face. She looks really cute. So I'll keep my eye out on that one for sure. 416 Midnight Evangelion version. I definitely like the robotic pup. That's cool. That's definitely cool. Next up after that is a 416 Primrose Flavored Foil Candy Full Damaged version. This one's a little bit more interesting, though the sculpt so far doesn't really feel like it's damaged that much outside of like the dress right here and a little bit down here. Like, I guess it's also revealing her legs a little bit, which is part of why they do these damaged figures in the first place. I can't really tell if there's damage up here, and her hair doesn't look that messy either. She's definitely, like, ready for action, though, so that's part of the fun of this sculpt for sure. I think I found the figure I really like here from Apex, and that is Dusk. I keep looking at the texturing pattern on the dress. There's something about this that looks really good, and I keep wondering how they're gonna paint it. Is this supposed to be, like, really shiny and reflective, or maybe they're going for something else? She's also got this gigantic Buster Sword, which is sick. I think her face looks like more on the cool side, if anything. Hair sculpt looks pretty nice. All these like little tassels from ribbons and whatnot are flowing down in a nice swirly way. It's a good sculpt. Next figure we got was the Xiaomi Fortunate to Meet China dress version. This lady's thighs are fantastic. My god, are they large and quite beautiful. I gotta say, like, this portion of the figure, I feel like is starting to become a bit too normal. I feel like we get a lot of figures that have this, and then they start to feel a little less special. Though it'll always look nice, so it's not a big deal. It's just not really that special, and there's also not that many things on these shelves to really, I guess, stand out. Though the thing that does stand out about this figure is that it's a China dress figure with a mask, which is definitely not something I often see. So you have this cool mask and these gigantic legs, so I definitely like it a lot. So yeah, it's kind of like cool and sexy and elegant at the same time, a little mysterious. I like it a lot. M4A1, a girl's hot air balloon adventure full damaged version. I don't know where they come up with these names. Almost like Alice in Wonderland a little bit. It's fun, definitely fun. 1/7 scale figure of Chapai from Azure Lane. Now this is some great concept art. How hard will they go to try and replicate some of this? I don't even expect them to like try and do the wind and the icicles, even though that would be sick if they did. Though if they could at the very least make sure this figure looks like it's frozen, like all these little icicles on the cannons and whatever this is supposed to be, that will look amazing. She looks very pretty in this outfit too. I've only seen her eating donuts off the carpet, and I definitely like this interpretation of her way more. So this looks awesome. Can't wait to see that one. But unfortunately, our last figure announcements from Apex Toys are just silhouettes. Here we have the Enterprise Windcatcher version, as well as a Prinz Final Lap version. And I've been waiting to see the Prinz from Mimeyoi. Even though that's a 1/4 scale, it's a little different. I imagine this is the same outfit, except she'll be holding the flag this time. I'd be down to get that instead, just because it'll be way smaller, if it looks good. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the event, guys. Everything else on this page is Arctech, which I guess is also Apex Toys, but they're posable figures, which I don't normally talk about. So just to scroll through them really quickly, in case you guys were interested, there you go. So yeah, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching my Wonfes videos, as well as One Hobby. It's about like 3.5 hours worth of content. It's kind of a lot. I don't expect anybody to watch all these videos, but if you did, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Now, if you want to further support the channel, be sure to subscribe and like the video and leave me a comment. You know the drill, everybody says this, but it really does help. And hopefully my videos will reach a bigger audience if you do so. So yeah, that's gonna do it for now. Next video will likely be a review, I'm pretty sure, or an unboxing, something like that. So I guess I'll just say until then, take care, have a good night. Appreciate you watching my videos, and I'll see you around. Later.